Hello, it's Riles, and as you may or may not know, I really like to upcycle things. And today I have a nice little stack of old little dresses to upcycle. I want to turn them all into skirts instead of dresses because these dresses don't fit me, so I want to go ahead and turn them into something that I'll still be able to wear. And I'll go ahead and show you how you can do this to your own clothes as well. So I'm going to start by cutting the tops off of all the skirts. Since the waists on the skirts are a little bit bigger than my waist, I'm going to just go ahead, cut it at the waist, and then I'll just hem it downwards to make the waistbands for it so it should fit me correctly.
So I went ahead and started cutting, but as you can see, that was a little bit of a struggle.
I forgot how much I hated my rotary cutters, so I'm going to be doing the rest with scissors.
Alright, much better. So I went ahead and cut all of them right below the waistband. This ended up being a little bigger than I thought, but I fixed it later.
So now that I have them all cut, I'm going to go ahead and pin down the waistband on all of them. So I'm going to basically be flipping it over and then pinning it down a decent bit, like an inch or so, down like this. Except for the white one right here, I need to take in the sides on this one because it was gathered so that it'll be the right shape, because right now it currently looks like a pillowcase.
So I started by pinning that white skirt down. I just traced one of the other skirts for the basic shape, and then I went ahead and pinned down all the waistbands on these. I ended up sewing these a little bit differently once I realized something, because I liked how it looked when I grabbed a bit of the under fabric. So if you're pinning this, you'll want to go ahead, turn it over, and then turn it over a bit more so that then you'll catch a bit of the original fabric, so it looks more like an actual band attached versus it just being another part of the skirt. But I show that a bit better in a second.
Alright, now that I've got all the waistbands pinned down, I'm going to go ahead and sew them.
I went ahead and put my stitch length to 2 and did a zigzag stitch so that my stitches would be nice and sturdy. I then went ahead and started stitching up the skirts. For the first waistband, I went ahead and did this one because my machine was already threaded with black, so it was nice and convenient, so then I could just finish up this skirt and then do all the skirts that needed the white thread after I rethread it.
So, you may be wondering where I got all these dresses from. And they're actually from my lover's ex-girlfriend. However, he hasn't had any girlfriend since 6th grade, so these dresses didn't exactly fit me, and that's why we're making skirts.
He will help show you a little bit better what I ended up doing. So I went ahead, first stitched this down, and then I folded it under, like there, and then I just did a zigzag stitch, again, right on the edge, so that then it caught it, and then it made a nice little, mock waistband. It much more resembled the average skirt that you'll see, because I thought, without the waistband, it kind of didn't have that structure, and, kind of looked cruddy compared to how skirts generally look, so I really liked it a lot better when it looked like it had a waistband, even though it was not really a waistband, but it mimicked it.
Alrighty, that just about finishes up the main skirts. So if you are making a skirt along with me and want to quit right here, that's totally good. I'm going to quit right here for this skirt because I really like it as is. It's nice, soft, stretchy, and I think it'll look super cute with some stuff I already own. As well as this one. I also want to stop here with this one because it's a bit tighter on the legs here. It's not as out flowy and everything, so I think it'll look better as being just the skirt. But for some of the other ones, like for this one, I would like to add possibly suspenders or one of those little overall fronts to it because I've got some more fabric of this. So I want to see what I can do to make this one a little more interesting. And then I would like to also make pockets on this one because I really like this one and I want to make it nice and practical for me, and I think the material's stiff enough to handle pockets well enough. So if you would also like to add any of that to your skirt, go ahead and keep watching because I will show you how I'm going to do it.
So to begin with the alterations, I went ahead, took the rest of the fabric I had from that first dress for the houndstooth one and basically cut up the top to try to make these pocket pieces. I ended up cutting it a little bigger than I actually needed at first because when I tried to attach these larger pockets to the skirt, they hung down below where the skirt lays, which I never liked the look of, so I needed to cut them down a little bit, and then they ended up just being squared off, so they're not as deep, but they still work nice as pockets, especially like little hand pockets, because once again, the skirt isn't super sturdy, but it's sturdier than like a super stretchy one. It's only a two-way stretch, so it's able to take it a bit better. So I went ahead, cut that out, and then I pinned them together. So I pinned basically all but one side together. I'm going to go ahead and stitch these, and then attach them into the skirt, so I'll need to go ahead and seam rip out the side seams of the houndstooth skirt, which I'm starting in just a second here. I went ahead and did it 6 inches below the waistband, which I know is a little bit low, but it's where I end up liking my pockets in my skirts, because I wear my skirts at my waist and then it just ends up hitting perfectly for where my arms naturally rest. This could vary based off how long your arms are or where you like to wear your skirts. A lot of factors. Just measure where you like it and seam rip it out. If I would have pre-planned a bit better, I wouldn't have stitched this up in the first place like this, but alas, I did not. So I have to seam rip it, which sucks, but it's doable and it gets the job done. It does what I need it to do.
You see, I was thinking, and he must have liked her for her dresses, because there's no way my Pookie Bear could ever love anyone else.
So, for the unicorn one, I started by taking the top once again, but I needed to do a different formula since I wanted to make it like an overall skirt thing. So I went ahead and cut the top, basically. I cut both the back and front of this so that I could basically sandwich these together to make a nice two-sided thing, so there wasn't any like open seams anywhere and I wouldn't have to roll hems because I don't have as much fabric. It just seemed like a good idea because I didn't need that fabric for anything else. I guess I could have put a pocket or something on it, but I thought this was a pretty good use. And then I'm going to be using the sleeves to make the straps. So I was able to make basically the straps for each side out of one sleeve. So I basically cut it in half-ish, yeah. And then I just had to trim it and sew it together, and basically I'm going to make tubes and put it up, and I'm going to do those little tie things up top to, those little tie straps so you can adjust it to however long you need it. And I also think it's pretty cute. It adds some nice visual interest to skirts, so that's what I'm currently working on.
Anyway, I went to her house and she was totally happy to give me anything I wanted. All I had to do was threaten to pry the clothes from her cold, dead hands if she didn't give me them. So it was totally $3.99 for me. If you don't count the restraining order, of course, but...
So to sew up the pockets, you basically sew all but one side closed, and you'll do this on the wrong side so that the correct side will still have the good seamage and stuff, and that will be the pocket that you see. So I went ahead and did that, and then I needed to pin that onto the skirt where I had seam ripped out. And you basically just have to pin one side of the front pocket, like to one side of the opening and the other side to the other one. It's a little hard to sew on, all things considered. You often have a little bit of puckering or something odd at the very seam where it connects, like back to the normal seam, but overall, it's not bad, and it generally goes pretty well. If you want to make this easier and you have a lot of fabric, you can always cut out your pockets in your initial skirt pattern, and then they're just attached, and then they don't have any seam there, and they generally tuck in just correctly, and it works super nice. Now, the unicorn one was a bit more complicated, but it was still pretty simple. So I went ahead, sewed all but one side of the front flappy thing together, which I ended up realizing I shouldn't have done yet. I should have done the straps first, actually, because I needed to tuck the straps into that little top bit of the overall bit. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but it would look a lot better and hold up a lot better if I did, so I ended up just seam ripping that out and sticking them in and sewing it again. But it would have been so much easier if I would have just sewed up the tube straps first and then put them in and then sewn that, so I wouldn't have had to do any of that unpicking. But oh well. That is what it is. So I actually hate sewing up these stupid tubes. Oh man, I hate turning them back inside out. I need to get a tool or something. This is a consistent problem. These aren't even that tiny, but I still hated it.
While I was working on this project, I actually needed to take a small break because the tracker that I put in my Schnuckum's car actually pinged that he was leaving. So naturally, I needed to follow him and make sure that no hussies came anywhere near him. Luckily, they all stayed far, far away, so I didn't need to add to my hand collection today. Once my Pookie Bear was back home safe, I was able to return to work.
But anyway, I unturned the straps. One side of them was already hemmed, so I basically just used that for the top bit where I'd be tying it together. So I just put the raw edges at the bottom and I just attached it to the skirt. So I attached the front bit to the middle, I figured out where the middle of the seam was, and then I stuck it in the middle of it, sewed it down onto the already seam allowance there. I just re-sewed it down there so there was no new seam or anything. And then for the straps on the back, I basically just tried to measure out where the front overall bits were, and then I went ahead and sewed them down there, so then it lines perfectly and will tie good.
Alrighty, after all those modifications, all the skirts are done. So now all that's left to do is show them all off to you with the grand reveal. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give me a like and subscribe. It really helps me out quite a bit. Until next time, farewell!